Hi everyone, my name is Lily. I am an artist and a high school art teacher, and I am also pregnant with a baby girl who is due in a little bit over a week. So long before I was pregnant, I always knew I wanted to do a mural in my future baby's nursery. I would like to do one with every kid as well. It just kind of seemed like a fun way to make the nursery more unique. And I also have never done a mural before this, so I was kind of interested to do it as a personal project to see if it'd be something else I'd want to do more in the future. I started planning this mural probably about a couple months before I started actually painting it. I would have started really early on in my pregnancy, but I wanted to wait until we knew the gender to design the mural, and we didn't find out the gender until 20 weeks. So once we got to 20 weeks, I was really itching to start because I wanted to finish most of it in the second trimester. So I only had like 8 more weeks to try to do it. I did end up going into the third trimester a little bit, but luckily I was still feeling really good by the time I finished it. But I didn't want it to be something that I was doing at like 35 weeks plus. So I was hoping to be done with it before. I think I ended up finishing it around 32 weeks pregnant. I started out by brainstorming a bunch of ideas that seemed nursery friendly. So I thought about doing an underwater scene, doing like clouds in a sky, zoo animals, a bunch of different things. I really wanted to do just flowers, kind of like big abstract flowers covering the whole wall, which I still think would be really cool, maybe for a future wall. But my husband really wanted just mountains. So kind of combined it so I could still have my flowers that I wanted and we could have kind of a mountain scene as well. And that's how I came up with the final design. I looked for a lot of inspiration on Pinterest. I also watched a bunch of YouTube videos on murals. I found a couple on nursery murals specifically, but there wasn't a ton. But that was pretty helpful to kind of like get me thinking through the process. The most challenging part of the design was I knew I needed to have a more limited color palette because obviously the more colors you do, you're buying more paints for the wall and it just gets more complex. So since I had never done a mural before, I knew I needed to keep it a little bit more simple and have a limited color scheme. But I also didn't want it to be like so simple that I wasn't even proud of what I had painted because my artwork is usually a little bit more detailed. So that was kind of a struggle. I'm happy with where it ended up, but it was definitely hard picking the color scheme. This is my little vision board that I had to help me with my design. So I took a bunch of screenshots from Pinterest of different things that I liked or colors that I wanted to be included and then worked on my design off of that. Here you can see a little bit of the process of me doing the sketch and then adding the final color. So after I had my general sketch done, I measured the wall in the room so that I could get accurate dimensions into Procreate and kind of map it all out in Procreate. I also took pictures of the wall so that I could kind of like put my digital drawing or my sketch onto the pictures of the wall in Procreate and see if I liked how it was looking. Once my design was complete, it was time to figure out how I was going to get it onto the wall and what supplies I needed. From the research I'd done, I figured I had two main ways to get my design onto the wall. I could either use a projector, which you see a lot of mural artists do, or use the grid method. I ended up just using a projector. Looking back, I actually probably could have freehanded a lot of the design because I ended up freehanding a lot of the details and stuff later on, but it was helpful to have the projector just to do the placement of the mountains and the sky and some of the flowers. Since I had never worked at such a large scale before, I wasn't super confident in my freehanding skills at that large of a scale. So I'm glad that I just did the projector for this one. In the future, I would maybe freehand depending on the size of the wall, but it worked out really well for this. I'll put a picture on the screen of the projector I used and I can link it down below as well. I just borrowed a projector from a friend. I don't actually have a projector, but this is the one that I used and it worked great. In terms of the paint that I used, it seems like there's a good amount of flexibility for what you can use on an interior wall. If you're doing an exterior wall mural, I think you have to be a little bit more specific about the paint that you choose. But from the research I did, it seems like you could even just use basic acrylic paint on a wall. I think that I would only do that if I was doing a smaller wall mural, but for the size that I was doing and the space I was covering, I just used interior wall paint. I just ended up going to Lowe's. I brought the colors that I wanted with me and I picked out the paints there. So I looked through all of their little booklets and paint samples and picked what I felt like was the closest color. That was kind of difficult to do. I brought my husband with me and he kind of helped me pick the colors, but some of the colors I feel like were still a little bit off. I just ended up doing a bunch of paint samples. So at first I was going to do some larger sizes because I was worried I wouldn't be able to cover the whole wall, but I'm glad I didn't because I literally did the entire mural with just the paint samples, which was really surprising to me and also much, much cheaper. I think each of these were maybe like $7 and I bought maybe like 6 or 7 of them. So I mean, still a little bit pricey, but honestly not too bad for what I was thinking it was going to be. I also got some of the sample colors knowing that I was going to create more mixes out of them. For example, I got just one green, but I think I have 1, 2, 3, like 4 or 5 greens in my mural, but I just mixed in white and black and yellow and blue and just kind of did different combinations to get the green that I was wanting. So I did actually end up using some of my acrylic paint to mix into the interior wall paint. I don't know if you're really supposed to do that, but it worked out fine. And I just did that to kind of like change the color to how I wanted. That way I didn't have to spend quite as much money on all of the different paint samples, but I still got a greater variety of colors. I also bought some painter's tape and some plastic as well to cover the floors and anything else in the room. So now that I had all my supplies, I was ready to actually prep the wall. So first thing I did was wash the wall just with some warm water and a rag. Once the wall was dry, I taped off all the areas of the wall, covered the floor, covered all the furniture, everything like that. And then I painted with primer. So we did 2 coats of primer and let it dry in between. After the primer was dry, we set up the projector to get my design onto the wall. That kind of took a while. It was really hard to get it exactly lined up on the wall. So my husband helped me with it and eventually we were able to get it to work. I think I just connected it either to my iPad or to my laptop that had the design on it, and then we projected it up onto the wall. In my timeline for how long I thought it was going to take me to do the mural, I planned out 2 weeks to transfer the design onto the wall, and I literally did it in one night. It just was so much faster than I thought it was going to be. I really just traced the mountains, the sun, and the flowers. I didn't really do many of the details, so that probably made it go faster as well. But that was much faster than I thought it was going to be, which was great. And I was able to start painting the next week. Overall, it took me about a month and a half to do the actual painting of the mural. I had actually planned out 2 months, like that was my goal to finish it in, which seems like a lot of time, but I was working and I knew I'd only be able to paint like a little bit before work or after work. And I also was just going kind of slow, honestly. I feel like if I did it again, I would be a lot quicker. But in the beginning, I was very like precious with the way I was painting and really taking my time. I got a lot faster towards the end of the mural. So here you can see the setup that I had while I was painting. I printed out the design and had it taped to the wall so I could refer back to it. I did end up making changes as I went, especially like with the flowers. I ended up adding a lot more detail and kind of doing some things differently. But overall, I stayed pretty close to my original design. Here's some clips throughout the whole process. Like I said, it took me about a month and a half to finish painting the mural. I don't know how many hours I spent on it, but it was definitely a lot of hours.
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Be free. Be free with me. Be free. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche, we're on the run.
You can see here there's a pretty big jump in my recording from doing the flowers to like a lot of the green and the wall being done. At this point, I was really ready to be done and I felt like I had been working on it for forever. So the green, I didn't even really record. I just kind of went really hard painting all of the green and I probably finished all of that up kind of within a week. But yeah, I was really excited to be done and really happy when it was finished. This part of the wall I had actually primed and was planning to extend the mural over the closet, but by the time I got to that point, I was pretty ready to be done. So I ended up just painting the wall color back on it, and I'm planning on putting her name above the door. Either I'll paint it or I'll just do like wood letters or something like that.
Be free with me. Yeah, let's go. Be free with me. Oh, come on and let's go. Let's be free with me. Yeah, be free. Be free.
Last step was just to clean up the room and take off all of the tape, which was very satisfying to do. Then we were finally able to tackle organizing and setting up the nursery. This is what the mural ended up looking like in the final room. Overall, for my first mural, I was really happy with how this turned out, but there's a couple things that I would probably do differently next time. First, I just feel like my design was too detailed. This is kind of ironic because I feel like I spent so much time thinking my design wasn't detailed enough. But once I was actually painting it on the wall, I was like, wow, this is a lot of small detail for a mural. I also feel like with murals, what's really important is just vibrant color and a lot of movement and an interesting design, not necessarily the amount of detail. So I think if I did it again, I would probably do something a little bit more simple. And focus more maybe on the color palette or the overall like vibrancy and movement in the mural. Also, if I was ever going to do a mural for someone else, I definitely couldn't do something quite this detailed, or I would have to be faster because I'm not about to spend a whole month in somebody's house working on a mural. So I think I probably could have done something a little bit simpler. Also, next time I'd probably take a little bit more time matching my paint colors in the store. I feel like I felt kind of stressed, so I rushed through it a little bit, and then when I got home, some of my colors were different. The blue that I ended up using in the mural is much more teal colored than the blue that I originally had in my design. My design was a lot more of a grayed out blue, and it ended up working out just fine, but I just feel like I rushed too much, and it was also really difficult to get exact matches. So if you live near a store that has one of those machines where it like scans your color and then is able to match it digitally, I feel like that would be better, but the store I was at didn't offer that. Also, I don't know if this would apply to everyone, but I was definitely really glad that I tried to finish the mural in the second trimester, which I wasn't quite able to do, but I was early enough in the third trimester when I was done that I felt like I still had a lot of energy and was able to do it. But even then, I think I was like 32 weeks. It was still kind of uncomfortable to crawl around on the ground and like be on a ladder and everything with my bump. But definitely now, if I was still having to do the mural at where I'm at now, I would not be very happy doing it. So definitely do it earlier on in pregnancy if you're the pregnant person and you're painting. That's it for the video. Hopefully you found some of those tips helpful if you're painting your own mural or even just watching me go through the process. Hopefully it was helpful. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.